Have you ever just stopped and thought about why we value things like individuality? Or why we believe we have the right to question authority and, shape our own lives? It's easy to take it all for granted. This idea that art can look real, that education should be for everyone, that our own conscience matters. But none of that was a given. It was all forged during this incredible period of upheaval that basically turned the entire world inside out. So let's dive in and see how this amazing transformation happened.
Okay, to really get a sense of how massive this change was, let's do a little thought experiment. First, picture a student back in the year 1200. His world, it's completely framed by religion. The church tells him what's true, what the law is, everything. His future is pretty much mapped out from the day he's born. Now let's jump forward just 300 years. Imagine a student in Florence around 1500. She's still religious for sure, but she's also reading ancient Greek philosophers. She's seeing art that's bursting with real human emotion. The world around her feels alive with possibility. See the difference?
For that first student back in the Middle Ages, this was it. This was the ultimate question. Life on Earth was seen as this temporary, often pretty miserable, test before the real event, the afterlife. Everything, art, politics, your job, it was all designed to answer this one, single, all-consuming question.
And here it is. This is the shift. For our student in Florence, a brand new question starts to take over. It doesn't get rid of the first one, not at all, but it completely refocuses human energy on the here and now, on potential, on achievement, on the idea that this life, right here, actually matters.
So what gives? How does an entire worldview just pivot like that? How do you get from a world obsessed with the afterlife to one that starts celebrating human life? Well, that's the story we're going to unpack. And the first key is a quiet but totally revolutionary change in how people thought.
So let's start with that first key, the intellectual engine that really got the whole thing started, rediscovering what it means to be human. And that engine was called humanism. Now, it's really important to get this right. Humanists weren't anti-religion. Not even close. Most were devoutly Christian. But what they did was look past the Middle Ages, back to ancient Greece and Rome, and they saw these incredible cultures that celebrated human reason, art, and civic life. They started to believe that focusing on human potential in this life was a worthy goal in itself.
I mean, just look at these ideas. They sound so incredibly modern, right? The belief that we're all innovators, that education should be about more than just one thing, that every single person has value, and that we can actually control our own destinies. This is the air we breathe today. But back then, this was radical stuff.
And you can see where this is going, can't you? It's a chain reaction. Humanism plants this tiny seed. Because if you teach people that they can think for themselves, that they can reason, you're also, without saying it, giving them permission to question everything. And once that door is open, well, there's no closing it.
So this new way of thinking is bubbling up. But what did it actually look like? Well, you can see it come to life, literally, in the art of the time. This is the visual key to the whole transformation. This chart says it all. On one hand, you have medieval art. Its whole purpose was to be a kind of religious instruction manual. It's flat, it's symbolic, it's all about God. But then, boom, Renaissance art comes along, and it's all about exploring what it means to be human. It becomes realistic, emotional, and deeply interested in how people and the world actually look. Just look at Michelangelo's masterpiece, the Pietà. Sure, the subject is religious, of course, but look closer. This isn't just a symbol. It's a moment of devastatingly human grief. Mary's face isn't just a blank slate. It's filled with this quiet, profound sorrow. And Jesus' body, it has weight. You can feel the physical reality of death. Michelangelo is inviting you not just to believe, but to feel. And that's the revolutionary idea right there. The divine was suddenly being explored through the human. Artists were saying that you could connect with God and spirituality through real-world feelings, through the physical reality of the human body. It was a whole new way of experiencing faith.
Okay, so you've got these powerful new ideas in philosophy and art, but for them to change the world, they have to spread. And that brings us to our third key, a piece of technology that was a total game changer, a massive idea accelerator.
Before the mid-1400s in Gutenberg's printing press, every single book had to be copied by hand. Think about that. They were insanely expensive, incredibly rare, and totally controlled by a small group of elites. Information moved at a snail's pace. But after the printing press, everything changed. Suddenly, books were cheaper, they were faster to make, and information was no longer a monopoly. All of a sudden, an idea could go viral, 15th century style. Someone could write something challenging,
And within months, not decades, but months, it could be printed, sent all over Europe, and read by thousands of people. This made it pretty much impossible for the authorities to just stomp out an idea they didn't like. The cat was out of the bag.
So, let's put it all together. You have a new focus on the individual. You have art reflecting that focus, and you have a technology that can spread dissent like wildfire. The stage was perfectly set for a head-on challenge to the most powerful institution in Europe.
And in 1517, a German monk named Martin Luther lit the match. His arguments were absolute bombshells. First, he argued that you couldn't earn your way into heaven with rituals controlled by the church. It was about faith alone. Second, the Bible was the ultimate source of truth, not the Pope. And then, the most radical idea of all. He said ordinary people could and should read the Bible for themselves.
I mean, just think about what that means. It's humanism applied directly to faith. If any individual can have a direct line to God through the Bible, then suddenly the church is no longer the sole gatekeeper of truth. That one idea completely dismantles the power structure that had stood for 1,000 years.
So when Luther was told to take it all back, he refused. And his stand established this principle that echoes all the way to today, that even the most powerful authority on earth can be challenged by the conscience of one single person. This was the birth of the Protestant Reformation.
And so, by the middle of the 1500s, the old world was effectively gone. The absolute, unquestioned authority of the church was broken. But something new was growing in its place, a world where ordinary people felt they had not just the ability, but the right to question, to analyze, and to shape the world around them.
So when you boil it all down, the Renaissance gave us this incredible celebration of the individual, and the Reformation gave us the courage to question authority. Those two forces, born centuries ago, are really the pillars of the modern world that we live in, and they leave us with a pretty powerful question, don't they? This is our inheritance. What are we building with it today?